All right, well, thank you for joining us, Congressman. I know that you're one of the few Democrats that have been able to stop by today. And I know kind of the elephant in the room when it comes to Democrats is what exactly would you say is the morale for Democrats right now? Republicans can say they're having a winning streak. How is the caucus kind of strategizing behind closed doors?
Well, let me first say that in about an hour, I'll be on the floor of the House of Representatives. So I just want to say how thrilled I am to now be with normal, rational, kind people. Any day that the majority party loses a rule is a good day for Democrats. So morale was pretty high yesterday when, again, the Republicans lost a rule. They lost a bunch of rules last term, something that never happened under Speaker Pelosi. And what you characterize as success, I would say, is harm to American people. We have now rising inflation, exceeding expectations in the June report, and we have now this big, ugly law that's going to have devastating cuts to healthcare and increase people's healthcare costs.
And you bring up the big, beautiful bill. I know there are cuts in there that Democrats plan to capitalize on when it comes to the midterms, particularly Medicaid. But we know that those cuts actually don't go into effect until after the midterms. I guess, what is the opportunity there?
It's a fantastic opportunity because you may have seen Republican Senator Josh Hawley just introduce a bill to reverse the cuts. And so our messaging is, if you want to elect the same person that voted for the cuts, you can do that, or you can elect a Democrat that's going to stop the cuts from coming to you. And so it's actually a perfect opportunity for Democrats heading into midterms.
Do you believe that that legislation that Senator Hawley is putting forward has any bipartisan support beyond a few Republicans in the Senate, for instance?
I hope so. Well, so one thing the bill does is, for any Republican that's been saying, oh, these weren't actually cuts to Medicaid, it shows a lie to that, because Senator Hawley just introduced a bill to reverse the Medicaid cuts. And so we hope there's going to be bipartisan support for it. Clearly, Democrats are going to support. Hopefully, we'll get some Republicans to do so as well.
Yeah, I know I've heard from some Democrats an effort to obviously flip the House and potentially the Senate in the midterms, some of them calling it Project 2026. Could you guys, I guess, lay out what a Project 2026 might look like?
It's very focused on the economy. When Donald Trump campaigned, he said on day one, he's going to reduce inflation. He lied to the American people again. We saw inflation increase during his tenure this term. And again, it exceeded expectations last month, going to 2.7%, and core CPI increased even more to 2.9%. And then when you look at lots of everyday necessities, such as utilities, those are double-digit increases. You have increases in car insurance and meat and eggs and a lot of everyday items, and people understand the economy is not doing well under Trump and Republican policies.
Before the big, beautiful bill passed, we did see Democrats going to Republican districts to kind of break down maybe some of the things that you've explained. Could we see that repeated ahead of the midterms?
We're going to continue to highlight to voters across America in both blue and red districts the harm that the big, ugly law is doing and why the economy is not doing well under Trump and Republican policies, unless you're a billionaire. If you're a billionaire, you're doing pretty well right now.
And we certainly know where Democrats and Republicans disagree, and we've seen that policy debate so far in the president's first 6 months. But there is potentially a window for some bipartisan work. Do you see any specific policy issues where we could see Democrats and Republicans pass legislation together ahead of the midterms?
So I was honored to have been selected as co-chair of the House Bipartisan Task Force on Artificial Intelligence. I served with Congressmember Jay Obernolte, a Republican, who we worked together, and we got 24 members, 12 Democrats, 12 Republicans, to all agree on a set of recommendations, over 80 of them, that's released in our report. A number of those recommendations can easily become legislation, and I hope that we're going to be able to pass some AI legislation this term.
Do you believe that the White House would endorse those recommendations?
Well, so here's my argument. The White House wanted a 10-year ban on states regulating AI. That failed pretty considerably in the Senate, 99-1 voting against that ban. So what we're facing now is not whether AI is going to have laws and regulations put on it. It's, do you want Congress to do it, or do you want 27 states to do it?
Got it. I know before, back in 2023, you wrote an op-ed in the New York Times saying that AI freaks me out. And we've heard Democrats and Republicans really express concern about what this new industry could mean for American jobs, safety, surveillance, civil liberties. Do you believe that Democrats potentially missed an opportunity to act when there was a divided Congress? Senator Schumer talked about bringing a package to the floor, for instance, and then we saw the Congress come to an end last time with no legislation brought to the floor. Now we're in a Congress that is House and Senate run by Republicans. Do Democrats see that they may have missed an opportunity to legislate and regulate AI in the lens that they prioritize?
It's only a little over 2.5 years since OpenAI shocked the world with the release of ChatGPT worldwide. So I think part of it is just timing. It was so new and it's still developing very rapidly that it was hard at the very beginning to fully understand what this large language model was capable of doing. And it's still advancing at leaps and bounds. And we're now moving into what I call the age of AI agents. So when ChatGPT and other large language models came out, like Google's Gemini or Anthropic's Claude, it was a text-to-text platform. So you would ask a question like, why was the Battle of Midway so important in World War II? And then it would give you this beautiful, grammatically correct essay that you turn into your history professor, right? But now it doesn't just respond to you in text. You can have it go do things in the world. You can say, I want to go, book a hotel in Times Square in September on the 5th to the 7th, find me the cheapest room and book it with my credit card. And they have AI agents that will now do that. And so as this continues, imagine 1 billion people in the world who have AI agents working for them, doing stuff in society. That is, to me, amazing and alarming all at the same time.
And given that, what is the sense of urgency on Capitol Hill? I talked about kind of what the urgency looked last Congress. What does that look like now? And how are Democrats specifically weighing some of the concerns that we're seeing from environmental groups when it comes to the amount of natural resources artificial intelligence takes? And then also competing with China, which is, I know, a very much a North Star in trying to elevate the US's artificial intelligence technology.
Well, so the thing about AI data centers is you can build them anywhere. And so if you're not going to build them in the US, then guess what? Places like UAE are going to build a huge AI data center, or in China, or some other country. So I think it's not really a smart approach to say don't build these things because of energy, because then they're going to be built in another country. I'd rather have them built in America.
Is there any discussion in the legislative process about tying, expansion and investment for AI with environmental regulations, given some of the things that we've seen pop up in certain communities with water shortages?
So clearly we have to build smartly. I do think we need to have permitting reform that makes it also easier for all sorts of energy to be built. But if we want to make sure we tackle climate change, we should focus on renewable energies that don't go away, that are clean. And you can have a mix of both to sustain the rising needs of energy, not just for AI data centers, but just for all sorts of applications across America.
And moving on, we know we just had Secretary Nome here, and obviously she's going to be overseeing the implementation of billions of more dollars in her agency, specifically to boost the amount of ICE agents on the street. I know California has been definitely in the headlines when it comes to ICE operations. Is there any Democratic strategy to confront this? Is there a place to work with the federal government, or is it all defense at this point?
So we have been highlighting the illegal behavior of the Department of Homeland Security. You cannot just go into a random park in LA and arrest brown people. That is unconstitutional, it's against the law. To arrest someone, you need to meet the standard of probable cause. To detain someone, you need to meet the standard of reasonable suspicion. My skin color and your skin color does not constitute a basis for either of those. And when ICE agents go ahead and just round up people at a Home Depot or a park, they were violating the law, they were acting illegally. People have the right to film what they're doing. They have the right to protest. They have the right to rally and march. The No Kings protest was the largest protest in U.S. history, and now we see on immigration, Donald Trump is underwater. That used to be one of his top issues. He is now underwater on that issue because American people know that the Department of Homeland Security is violating the law and acting illegally, and they're acting in ways that the American people do not accept, such as wearing civilian clothes and wearing masks to hide what they're doing.
Governor Newsom has come out as a leader of the opposition, you could say, in the state of California, specifically when it comes to the president's immigration policies. Do you see him as a potential 2028 candidate?
Gavin Newsom has been a fantastic governor of California. I was honored to have worked with him when I was in the state legislature, and he was lieutenant governor, and he is really highlighting the illegal behavior of the Department of Homeland Security and of ICE agents and Border Patrol agents. They cannot simply just go after someone because of their skin color, and that's what they're doing. And don't just trust me, a federal judge recently said that and issued an injunction saying you guys are acting illegally and they should be ashamed of themselves.
So no specific answer on a 2028 candidate at this point?
I think Gavin Newsom would be a great 2028 candidate.
Have Democrats been discussing potential leaders to take on a Republican candidate in, 3.5 years now?
So I'm very honored my colleagues elected me to House leadership as vice chair. We're very focused on flipping the House next year, and we're going to flip the House next year.
Got it. And back to, I guess, the work of the House. I know we talked about AI being a place where Democrats and Republicans can potentially get some legislation across the finish line. Are there any other policy priorities beyond maybe tech where there is common ground? I know during President Biden's term that we did see Republicans and Democrats tackle things like gun violence, for instance.
So before I came to Congress, I thought, oh, they just fight a lot. Now I'm in Congress, it's true we fight a lot. It's also true on any given week, there's always a bunch of bills passing the House floor on a bipartisan basis that people don't know about unless they're watching C-SPAN 24 hours a day. And so there is still legislation that's being passed in the House, the Senate, signed by the president that's helping different folks in America. But on big issues like healthcare cuts, giving more tax breaks to billionaires, there's going to be a lot of fighting. But there's also a lot of issues where you can get bipartisan support. I do think AI is one of them. I think improving cybersecurity is another one of them. Because technology, right, is not partisan. It's just a tool. And I think there are ways that we can pass legislation to make those tools work better and safer for all of us.
And do you see artificial intelligence playing a role when it comes to Homeland Security? I know we did hear from the DHS Secretary talk about that, using innovation and technology to improve surveillance. Does that give you any pause, or is that something that you endorse?
So AI has like 27 million uses, right? And so it does depend on specific use case, but in many of them, it's going to make whatever we do as human beings more efficient. It's going to be able to analyze data in a way that humans cannot. It's going to do a lot of things that are generally beneficial to society. There's also going to be use cases where it can harm people, and so we want to focus on putting guardrails on that technology. We're not going to be able to stop AI. It's going to keep advancing, and let's try to harness its power for the betterment of society.
Do you still see Congress as an entity that can work as a guardrail to this administration?
I do, and partly it's because this task force report we put out was bipartisan. It was 24 people with very different views on a lot of different issues, and we all came together and agreed on over 80 recommendations.
And what is the timeline for this task force recommendation to become law?
So with the failure of the Trump administration's attempt to ban AI regulation by states for 10 years, that completely went down in flames. I think people are now starting to realize if we don't want 27 states doing their own laws on AI, then we should look to Congress to do it, and hopefully we'll have Republican leadership agree to that, and we can pass some AI legislation this term.
Well, I'll certainly be watching. I've been following AI regulation discussion for a few years now, so I'll be interested to see how that plays out. I think that takes care of all of our time together, but thank you, Congressman, for taking out the time to chat.
Thank you.